What's up, guys? Welcome to another episode of Speech Therapy, hosted by Ian McCrary.
Now, as you all know, that is me. I am your lovely host on this podcast that is anything but lovely, and I'm glad you're back. Really, I am. Because I titled this episode Current News and Pop Culture in hopes that not only would you click on it and listen, but to also hopefully maybe educate you in the only way that I know how, which is to talk and ramble. Now, we have had a lot of things happen this year that is both good and bad. And unfortunately, we can't get into all of the things that happened this year, because if we did, this episode would be 3 to 4 hours long. But I do feel like I hit the topics that hit close to home for me and also would be relatable to you. Of course, all topics are important to discuss, but I feel like the ones that I discussed on this episode are pretty important to me. And who knows? Maybe you guys can relate. I hope you can relate. And that's why you're here, right? That's why you're here to listen. Now, before I go any further, I do want to go ahead and say that I will not be talking about anything related to COVID-19 or the recent monkeypox epidemic, okay? I feel like the media has overwhelmed you already with COVID-19 facts, COVID-19 deaths, COVID-19 quote-unquote cures, and COVID-19 variants, as well as overwhelmed you with monkeypox epidemic, monkeypox deaths, monkeypox symptoms, and the fact that they are telling the public that monkeypox is directly related to HIV and the LGBTQIA plus community is false. Okay? That is false information that they are spreading worldwide. And I am upset about it, but I'm not going to get into it because I hope you guys will be smart enough to know that that is not true. With that being said, I have a variety of things to get into and discuss with you guys today. So let's get into it. Let's talk. I'm changing the name. This is Talk Therapy. Just kidding, this is Speech Therapy. I can't use Talk Therapy because that's already trademarked and I could be sued for copyright infringement.
All right. So first up on the list is the controversy and drama surrounding the heavily anticipated film Don't Worry, Darling. Okay, I did do my own research on this and I have quite a bit to read off, but I also found a thread online from a user who goes by the name of Heidi that I will also be reading to you guys because she basically explained it down to a T, and I hope you guys are ready because it is just quite the roller coaster of he said, she said, and I'm mad that I can't play a clip from Olivia Wilde of a phone call she actually gave to Shia LaBeouf, but you know what? I feel like with everything else that Heidi touched base on, it'll pretty much, make up for all of that. So I hope you guys are ready because I wasn't when I started reading through the thread and then wanted to actually put this in on the podcast. I sincerely was not ready. But alas, here goes. I'm going to start off by reading my own research that I did for this topic, and then I'm going to get into what Heidi tweeted. So, Don't Worry, Darling. Rotten Tomatoes has given it a score of 41%. It was directed by Olivia Wilde with the screenplay by Katie Silberman. It was released on September 5th, 2022 in Venice, Italy, and will be released in the United States on September 23rd, 2022. The runtime for this film is 2 hours and 2 minutes. The budget was between $20 and $30 million. It stars Florence Pugh, Olivia Wilde, Gemma Chan, Chris Pine, Harry Styles, Kiki Lane, and Nick Kroll. Now, a multi-bidding war took place for the rights of this film, which is Olivia Wilde's second, with New Line Cinema eventually winning. Pugh joined the cast in April of 2022, with Stiles being added that September, replacing Shia LaBeouf. Filming began in Los Angeles in October, lasting through February 2021. The film's reportedly troubled production was the subject of media attention and controversy, including conflicting reports of the circumstances regarding LaBeouf's departure and alleged conflicts between Wilde and Pugh. And from here is where I am going to get into the thread that I found from Heidi. And you guys, I just want to say, I hope you're ready for this wild ride that I am about to take you on. Okay, so here it goes. Heidi says, okay, it seems time to do an explainer thread on this Olivia Wilde, Harry Styles, Florence Pugh situation. Yes, here it goes. It all starts when Olivia Wilde hires Shia LaBeouf to play the husband Jack in the movie Don't Worry Darling. Florence Pugh is cast to play the wife. The movie has several sex scenes. Shia is infamously creepy with women and is in fact being sued by his ex, FKA Twigs, for horrific abuse. Florence Pugh comes to Olivia and says she is creeped out to be working with Shia. Shia is off the movie and is replaced by Harry Styles. Olivia is also dating Harry after, or perhaps during, her recently broken marriage to Jason Sudeikis. The promotion of the film, which is ongoing, is where the drama becomes visible. Olivia, eager to be taken seriously as a director, does an interview with Variety, which is read by everyone in Hollywood. For Girl Boss points, she says she fired Shia LaBeouf to keep Florence Pugh, quote-unquote, safe from an abuser. Shia LaBeouf, reading Wilde's interview in Variety, calling out his, quote-unquote, combative energy, pushes back. He says that he was not fired from the film at all, and certainly not by Olivia Wilde. Shia then forwards two of Wilde's emails to Variety magazine, and in the emails, Wilde is begging him to stay on the film, saying she will intervene with, quote-unquote, Miss Flo, who she portrays as being too sensitive. The emails show Wilde lied to Variety and didn't protect Pugh at all. Now it is time for the press tour and the marketing of the film. Florence Pugh, clearly irritated with Wilde lying about keeping her quote-unquote safe, declines to say anything nice, or anything at all rather, about Wilde to Variety magazine. This is rare for leads who usually praise directors. Florence Pugh also starts giving statements about how the film is being reduced to its sex scenes. This is a direct criticism of Olivia Wilde, who has been promoting the sex scenes as revolutionary and clearly instructing the other lead, Harry Styles, to do as well. Florence Pugh skips the press conferences for the film, once again demonstrating conscientious objection to Olivia Wilde. This week, they are all in Venice, and the other actors show a marked discomfort around each other. Chris Pine is openly bored and disassociating. Then, Florence Pugh's stylist posted a picture of her in Venice in an immaculate showstopper of a Valentino gown. The caption, quote-unquote, Miss Flo, was directly shading Wilde's emails to Shia to stay on the film, emails in which Olivia called her Miss Flo, quote-unquote. Meanwhile, also in Venice, Harry and Olivia, who are allegedly a couple, are refusing to touch or look at each other or even stand next to each other. In fact, Harry makes a big show of kissing Nick Kroll full on the lips. Who knows what is happening with Harry and Olivia? No one. Maybe they are in a fight. Maybe Harry Styles doesn't want to be seen as his director's pet. Maybe. Chris Pine, for his part, is doing an amazing job of looking like he is totally checked out of everything. He looks great, but every video of him shows him rolling his eyes or staring off into space. And now, at this point, I would have loved to, give you guys a visual of all the videos that I saw, and they're completely right. Or she is completely right. He's staring off into space, he looks totally bored, and he's just doing everything he can to be present in the press conference as presently as he could, Heidi goes on to say, there is also Spitgate. in which Harry Styles is allegedly shown spitting on Chris Pine as he is sitting down for the premiere at Venice. Personally, I do not think there was spitting. It makes no sense. It's out of character, and they are clearly joking seconds later, which is very true. I actually saw that video, and in my own personal opinion, it doesn't look like Harry Styles spit on him, but it does look like Chris Pine reacted to something, and then a couple seconds later they're laughing and joking, so who knows what it could have been. Florence Pugh continues to rock the I don't know her approach at the same premiere in Venice, refusing to make eye contact with Olivia Wilde and walking out during the standing ovation that the movie got. Out of protocol, when Florence leaves, they all have to leave, so they all follow her. Those are all the highlights. Please feel free to add anything I missed. Also, Florence is making sure to broadcast as much unbothered video as possible, which is very true. All over social media at the time, Florence Pugh was in all kinds of videos showing her not being at the press conferences, smiling and waving to fans and just doing everything she can to just be as unbothered and as sassy as possible. Heidi goes on to say, correction, Jason Sudeikis and Olivia Wilde were not married, but they do have children together. During an early event for the movie's marketing in April, Sudeikis had custody papers served to Olivia Wilde at the time she was on stage, which was, no pun intended, quite wild. Further speculation on the drama, theories, these are all theories, suggest that Florence was mad that Olivia was an absentee director on the film at times, allegedly because she was spending time with Harry, or that both Florence and Olivia had romantic interests in him. There was also the video of Olivia pleading with Shia to stay, saying, quote unquote, I'm not ready to give up on this yet. And at this point, I would play the video for you guys, but I'm just, can't, I'm sorry. Heidi goes on to say, thanks for the thread. I'm just here to point out how gorgeous Gemma Chan is. And she also shows a picture and a thread of how excellent Gemma Chan looked during the Venice film premiere. And she's right, she looked absolutely stunning. Coming out of that thread, with all of this going on, I'm not gonna lie to you, it just makes me want to watch the film even more. And a part of me believes that, yes, that was all a part of the marketing, you know. Since Rotten Tomatoes gave it a score of 41%, all this drama leading up to it, they needed something like with an extra oomph to get it out there and going. There's also another part of me that just says that I would see the film even without all the drama because the trailer from it just looked amazing. And to be quite honest, when you think about it, why would people give a 7 whole minute standing ovation for the film afterwards if the critics gave it a Rotten Tomatoes score of 41%? That doesn't make sense to me. So I know that there's something going on. And you know, if we all think about it, film critics are mostly all older white dudes who are never satisfied with a film unless it's showing abroad bare naked with their bare titties out and their bare vagina hanging out. That's the only way they'll be satisfied. So we can't really go off of a Rotten Tomatoes score from the film critics. They are never satisfied unless they see that in the film. So yes, that is the whole tea on this film. And to end it all, before I move on, I'm honestly gonna see it. I have to see it because the trailer looks amazing for it. And drama aside, I love the actors and new actors in it. But overall, I'm gonna see it, and I hope it's a great film. Now, moving on to the next topic, the Oscars. And then not only about the slap, but just overall about it being the blackest Oscars we have ever had and probably will ever have. Simply because in wake of Will Smith slapping Chris Rock on stage, the Oscars this year was produced by a black man who goes by the name of Will Packer. That is mind-blowing to me. I had completely forgotten that, and honestly, it was one of the reasons why I wanted to watch the Oscars this year was because it was produced by a black man. Maybe not in its entirety, but it was just that simple representation, you know? Wow, the Oscars, the Academy Awards was halfly, if not entirely, produced by a black man. And I do have this clip here from Viola Davis that I wanted to play on air for you guys to listen to, because it just further cements not only the lack of representation in Hollywood, but the struggle that we have to face entirely.
There is no words to describe the journey, the sweat, the blood, the war that is being a black artist and being a black female artist. And if people understood what goes on in the room, what goes on in the studios, what goes on in our hearts, what friggin' dies in us at times, if they see the blood, sweat, and tears of what it took, not just for this movie, just what our journey is, then they just would be on board.
Now, that was a clip that Viola Davis gave from Essence Magazine that was published on September 6th of this year. Yes, Viola Davis is currently featured in Essence Magazine, but I wanted to just play that because it just, like I said, it just further cements the struggle, you know, that people of color have to face in Hollywood on a daily basis. On a daily basis, not a monthly or a yearly basis, a daily basis. And a perfect example of that is the backlash that Disney's live action remake of The Little Mermaid is getting right now. You know, people are up in arms about Halle playing The Little Mermaid because they feel like, traditionally speaking, Ariel should be white. Well, scientifically speaking, if the mermaids were real, they would be 100 times more scarier than what the original OG Ariel is and what Halle is giving. I really hate the fact that the racism really sprung out in this, you know. The film, or the teaser trailer itself, has actually gotten 1 million dislikes on YouTube, which is astounding to me. I mean, it really is. And I would go into it further with you guys, but if I did, I wouldn't have enough times for the next topic that I'm going to talk about. So the next topic that I wanted to get into it with you guys about is the overturning of Roe versus Wade. Now, I know that this is a very touchy subject, so I'm not going to get too deep into it, but I will give you my personal unsolicited opinion about it. The fact is, I don't have a uterus, so really I don't really have a say on it. But if I did, I guess I would be pro-choice. I mean, why wouldn't I want someone have the choice of their own whether or not to carry a child or not, you know? I mean, I just think it's absolutely ridiculous that Congress overturned Roe versus Wade. But that is beyond me. And I also wanted to play this clip I found online of my favorite actor and activist, Jamila Jamil, talking about her experience with abortion on The View. And I wanted to play it for you guys because it is amazing. I love hearing her talk, and hearing her talk about this subject specifically really just blew me out of the water. So I'm going to play that clip for you guys right now.
I'm impressed that you actually went public with the fact that you had an abortion. We're talking about that today. Yeah. I mean, what's your response to this latest, atrocity, in my opinion, from the Republican Party to destroy women's rights?
I'm horrified by it. I'm deeply saddened. It's such a personal thing, and I'm with Stacey all the way that this is Stacey, who I love. Oh my God! But you know, I'm with Stacey that this is a medical decision, and statistics show people do not make this flippantly, and people do not use abortion as a form of birth control. When I had my abortion, it's because I'd used a condom and it broke, and then I took the morning after pill within 6 hours, which is way before the end of when you're supposed to take it, and because I was over 175 pounds, it didn't work on me, and the pharmacist didn't tell me that. That's not general knowledge, that if you're over a certain weight, it's less effective.
I didn't know
That's
that
not
either.
my fault. I shouldn't have to give up the rest of my life or risk my life or maybe die because contraceptive made by men failed. Are you kidding me? It's ridiculous, and so it's not a decision that people make flippantly, and our whole society is going to collapse if this happens. Right? If we force millions more people into a world where we have no baby formula, not enough access to healthcare, not enough access to education, not enough access to shelter, the cost of living crisis, the housing crisis. We are already way over our heads. So if we are forcing millions of people into this world, we are, as a society, whether you are right, whether you are left, whether you are pro-life or not, it doesn't matter. You will all suffer the consequences of a crowded, broken political, healthcare and education system.
Guys, tell me that didn't just blow your mind. Tell me it didn't, because if you say it didn't, I will call you a blunt-faced liar. Hearing her talk was just, oh my God. I could listen to her talk all day long. I actually follow her podcast that she started called I Weigh, and I would get into it with you guys, but I'm not going to because I don't have enough time. But it was just amazing to hear her speak on such a personal matter on a public platform the way she did. Not only is she intelligent, but she's highly aware of what is going on when it comes to not only people of color, because she is a brown woman, but people of, any, race or gender. And when it comes to things being affected by all of us, that's what I meant to say. I'm sorry. I didn't know how to say it in the moment, but I know how to say it now. She's on our side, guys. She's on our side. And I wanted to play that clip for you guys because it pertains to Roe versus Wade and the whole debauchery, basically, of what Congress is trying to do. It's laughable, actually, what Congress is doing. And I think that we need to make the right decisions when we are voting for these bills to be passed or voting to put these people in office. Okay? I'm just going to say it just like that. And I'm going to leave the matter alone because I hope Jamila said it all for me and I don't have to say any more about it. So we're going to move on to the next topic. Now, the next topic that I want to discuss with you guys is the passing of Queen Elizabeth II. Yes, she has died in my lifetime. I never thought it would be possible to go through as many historical milestones in my lifetime as I have been through. But I have now currently been through not only one, but 2 pandemics, and now the passing of a queen whose reign lasted a span of almost 72 years. Now, I'm not gonna basically get into, her death or how she died, but I will say this. The only country that is in mourning over her death is the UK. Everybody else is celebrating, okay? And I actually did find a thread online that I will read to you guys from this user who goes by the name of Luna, okay? And she actually quoted something else from another article that was published, which I'm going to read first, and then I'll read what Luna had quoted. The article says, Queen Elizabeth II owns the largest clear-cut diamond in the world, known as the Great Star of Africa. The 530 carats gem was mined in South Africa back in 1905. It was stolen from South Africa. It has an estimated worth of $400 million. Now, the user, Luna, quoted that and said, the diamond is worth $400 million and South Africa has 60 million people, which means we can give everyone $1 million and we would still have over $340 million left. Now, I would love to get into it with you guys about that, but like I said, I don't have enough time, and I feel like that is another podcast in itself about racism in the UK, because it is very prevalent just as much as it is here in the United States. And now I also found another thread that pertains to the whole controversy surrounding Meghan Markle marrying Prince Harry, because not only was Prince Harry ostracized by his entire royal family because he decided to marry a woman of color, but it just further cements what I was talking about in a topic or two ago when it comes to racism in Hollywood. It's this. I'm not trying to connect the two, but they do have similar traits. So the user that I found said that I definitely don't feel sorry for Kate Middleton, but I have to wonder what it's like to be groomed to marry a prince and have him repeatedly humiliate you, only to watch your brother-in-law literally give up everything and fight for the comfort and mental health of the wife that he adores and the mother of his child, because they actually did just have a baby. You know, when it comes to the royal family, I already had my issues with them because of the situation and circumstances surrounding Princess Diana's death. And if that doesn't tell you the royal family had some shit that stunk up the whole country, I don't know what does. Okay? And with that being said, I'm gonna move on. I would love to get into it with you guys, but I can't. I don't have enough time, and that could be a whole podcast episode in itself. So let's move on. Alright guys, we've come to the next and final topic that I wanted to get into and discuss with you guys. I saved this one for last because not only did I do some of my own research on it, but yes, I did find a thread online that started the whole thing, and I'm going to be doing a lot of talking, okay? Somewhat rambling, but mostly I'm trying to give you a lot of information all at one time, so please pay attention, please keep up. I hope the music in the background isn't too loud, because when I found this and I decided to follow the rabbit hole through it blew my mind. And I know I say that a lot, but no, this really did blow my mind, and it did educate me. So strap in, because the ride I'm about to take you on is not like the Don't Worry Darling drama, but this is in real time still happening right now before our very eyes. So online, I found this user who goes by the name of V for Vendetta, and she said, "I'm a little tipsy and explaining to a friend how Hollywood is essentially crumbling for profit, and it's interesting, so I'm going to make it a thread. Strap in. Bankruptcy goes to Hollywood." So Hollywood has like two options at the moment, unless the government steps in. One, the studios go bust or they go stream. Two, they just call in The Rock for every movie ever and hope enough Chardonnay moms pay to see him in cinemas. There are 5 major studios. 1, Universal, which is a subsidiary of NBC Universal. 2, Paramount, which is a division of Paramount Global. 3, Warner Brothers, a division of Warner Brothers Discovery. 4, obviously Disney. And 5, Columbia, which is the division of Sony Pictures Motion Picture Group. And yes, that is the real name. These current 2022 Big 5 were not the same Big 5 studios as in the studio era. This seems odd to point out, but it's important. She goes on to say, MGM, 20th Century Fox, RKO, Warner Brothers, and Paramount were the original Big 5, with the Universal, Columbia, and the United Artists being the little 3 back then. So what happened? She says it's too much to roll into a paragraph, but basically RKO went bankrupt in 1959 and Disney bought 20th Century Fox for $71.3 billion in 2019, and Amazon bought MGM for $8.5 billion in 2022. Both of those sales should be illegal, especially MGM for $8.5 billion, but I want to focus on RKO. She asks, so what happened to RKO then? And she says, everything. HUAC, which is the RKO director Edward Dmytryk, I think that's how you say his last name. It's spelled D-M-Y-T-R-Y-K. So I hope that's right. And producer Adrian Scott were in the Hollywood 10. General McCarthyism, the post-war dip in cinema sales, an eccentric multimillionaire Howard Hughes, Robert Mitchum's weed arrest, and SCOTUS. And I thought it was interesting that she mentioned the Hollywood 10, so I did my own research on it, and this is what I found. It says, the Hollywood 10 is a 1950 American short documentary film. In the film, each member of the Hollywood 10 made a short speech denouncing McCarthyism and the Hollywood blacklisting. The film was directed by John Barry. McCarthyism is a vociferous campaign against alleged communists in the U.S. government and other institutions carried out under Senator Joseph McCarthy in the period between 1950 and 1954. The Hollywood 10 was released on January 15, 1950, but on June 8, 1950, that same year, many of them went to jail because they would not provide testimony implicating colleagues in Hollywood. And I was like, whoa, okay.
I just learned something. Not only did I not know this film existed, but you'd think they'd be more progressive about, I don't know, segregation during that time period and not trying to figure out who and who isn't a communist. But I digress.
Going back to that thread, she goes on to say, there's so much to unpack there, but I'm skipping all of it to focus on SCOTUS because when aren't they fucking us? And that's very true. And for those of you who don't know what SCOTUS is the Supreme Court of the United States. SCOTUS had a very important, to film nerds and actually also literally everyone, but it's overlooked constantly, so pay attention to this, decision to make in 1948. United States versus Paramount Productions Incorporated, aka the Paramount Accords, aka the Paramount Decrees, aka the Hollywood antitrust case of 1948. This sounds more official and like a good thing, and that's why we don't use it. We want antitrust legislation. Antitrust legislation means we don't have, 5 big corporations deciding everything we do and see and spend money on. She says, but V, that's Paramount. What does that have to do with RKO, and what does any of this have to do with Hollywood eating itself? Well, she asks, do you know what vertical integration means? Vertical integration in Hollywood, in very simple terms, is when the studios own their own production, distribution, and exhibition rights. This is the studio's system. They make films, market them, and screen them. And the Hollywood antitrust case of 1948 is what broke that. The Paramount Accords did a bunch of things but made this illegal. They couldn't own all 3 and only show their own films in their own cinemas and charge extortionate exhibition fees for other studios' films anymore. This also helped independent filmmakers. And from there, I want to take a break because I want to discuss that. Can you imagine being an independent filmmaker who wrote, produced, and directed your own film, but not able to market any of it in any kind of way because big name studios own production lots that you have to film on, own the theaters in which you could promote any trailer or promote anything of any kind in there, and own exhibition rights, which meant you couldn't show your own film anywhere on the big screen in the US. Can you imagine doing all that work but not being able to do anything with the work that you...
So you're telling me I did all this work. I did all of this work. I wrote my own story, typed up my own script. I sent it out to multiple people. I got my own team together. I found my own actors and actresses to play the roles that I felt fit them and could bring the story to life. I produced this film, paid all of the talent, paid all of the crew, found my own locations to film on, directed each scene, sat through the entire editing process, played a major key role in all of it, and I can't release or market the work that I put in for any particular film that I do because a big name studio like, I don't know, Disney owns it all, owns all of the production lots, owns all of the expensive IMAX cameras, owns all of the actors and actresses under contracts, and they won't give me the green light because they own all of it? All of it? Oh, buddy, I would go full Karen. I would go full Karen DEFCON level 5. I would ask to speak to your manager. I would write a very, very nasty email to corporate. I would call and leave so many ugly voicemails. I would riot in the streets. I would burn somebody's house down. You're not gonna tell me or hinder me from releasing a piece of work that I put so much effort into creating simply because you own it all. Can you say greedy 3 times fast? V for Vendetta goes on to say, RKO was being run by a bananas aviation tycoon who settled in the Accords early and started divorcement early, and it just destroyed the company. Hughes bailed in 1952 and sold his stocks to a Chicago syndicate that had no right owning a film studio, and it just dissipated even further. So again, how is this relevant now? Well, the Paramount Accords were reversed in August 2020. Think about that. The Paramount Accords were reversed in August of 2020. That's like 2 years ago. That's around the same time when Warner Brothers started eating itself and shit started hitting the fan in Hollywood, and we're all like, why are they doing this? You know, it's the reason why Disney Plus is putting out all of this content right now. It's the reason why they bought Marvel as a whole. Because the Supreme Court doesn't let us have anything nice like antitrust legislation or bodily autonomy or a clean environment or safety from people with war weapons or policy decisions from this century for this century. But interestingly enough, that's the exact reasoning they gave here. SCOTUS legitimately pulled the Accords because it wasn't a decision that felt relevant anymore. Oh, terminate the antitrust rules instead of just, revising them? Sure, sounds like the best idea. And I'll give it to them, the major studios named in the decision doesn't exist anymore, or in the ways they did back then. And distribution and exhibition are so different now. I mean, the decision didn't account for streaming sites, so you can't exactly apply a 1948 decision to a Netflix subscription, can you? So now, studios are allowed to own everything they want again, which is why Disney is a growing amorphous site, just acquiring properties and banging out shows for Disney Plus, and why Amazon can buy MGM, a major studio, for the price of Jeff Bezos' lunch hour. And it's why Paramount Plus, another major studio, bided its time and let every streaming service set up and get through the pandemic, shifting film consumption completely and entirely until it was ready to debut its service and pull all of its titles for itself. So now, where are we? Warner Brothers is eating itself. But before that, let's look at all the good things the Accords did. These are all the quote-unquote consequences per Wikipedia's excellent summation. So, an increase in the number of independent movie theaters throughout the 1950s, 60s, and 70s, an increase in independent producers and studios to produce their film product free of major studio interference,
the beginning of the end of old Hollywood studios system, its golden age, allowing creative freedom for both behind the camera personnel and actors, and the weakening of the Hays Production Code because of the rise of independent and quote-unquote art house theaters, which showed foreign or independent films made outside of the code's jurisdiction. We got more independent creatives, more independent picture houses, and the weakening of the Hays Code, which was an extremely puritanical self-censorship policy within Hollywood. Warner Brothers is going the route of RKO. Michael Del Luca and Pamela Abdy took over Warner Brothers in July of 2022. Almost 3 months ago now, guys. And while they do have much more career experience in Hollywood than Howard Hughes did, they are doing the same thing he eventually did. Make absurd content / decisions and stifle filmmakers, pull films that don't fit the company's image / morals, strip the studio into holdings and properties, take tax cuts where exploitable, and even nixing a full film, and eventually cashing out on what's still profitable but bankrupting the rest. So Hollywood is eating itself because of the Supreme Court of the United States. Our entertainment industry is owned by like 8 people, and they just got the full green light to just abolish everything that's left of separation of spheres for economic gains. It's more profitable and legal to just destroy one of the oldest studios in Hollywood, and so they're doing it with absolutely no chagrin, no hesitation, or no concern for what this does to art and media culture. If you're tired of superhero movies and don't want to see The Rock in every movie ever made from now on, think about advocating for the antitrust legislation and saving Warner Brothers from RKO's fate. Films are obviously going to be for profit. It's a massive industry, but can we at least protect them a little bit with updated antitrust legislation and a refusal to take the executives' bullshit? We need better management of the arts and cultural sectors. They're so important. V for Vendetta goes on to say, I think I'm done for now. I'll probably get tipsy tomorrow too and rant some more. I am on holiday. Also, if you were interested in any of this, it would also interest you to know that the second largest cinema chain in the world, Cineworld, which owns Regal Cinemas in the US, is filing for bankruptcy right now. They cite the pandemic and streaming, but it's also for the P Accords. So coming out of all of that, the user V for Vendetta said that, they had gotten drunk on whatever holiday they're on, and they started ranting, and that's how I found that thread online, because it had gotten really popular. But the fact is, guys, they're right about everything. I did my own research, and everything about what she said checks out. Regal Cinemas is filing for bankruptcy. Can you just take a moment to think about that? Like, any movie theater local to your neighborhood that's either Regal or Cineworld is filing for bankruptcy. It's because for that period of 2 years when nobody was going to the movie theaters because we couldn't, they weren't letting us leave because of a lockdown, nobody was buying movie tickets, okay? Nobody was showing anything in theaters. Nobody was actively going to go buy popcorn that cost like $5 or $20 damn. So during that time, Regal Cinemas or Cineworld was just using their own money that they had used just to keep up with their own profit. They weren't making anything. So that's wild to think about. Even now, coming out of that, it's crazy, guys, to see how that's what we thought. We thought it was because of the pandemic because that's what we were told. That's what they cited. But really, V for Vendetta is telling us that it's really because of the Paramount Accords. It's really because these studios are going bankrupt. Hollywood is running out of ideas, and all of these streaming platforms just keep getting bigger and bigger and bigger. Not only is all of this coming into fruition now, but the fact that this happened even then, and we took measures to prevent that from happening. But now it's like we've gotten lazy, we've gotten so nonchalant about it. And I wanted to put that as the final topic to discuss because it's so important. This is happening in our lifetime. And especially me, who wants to be an aspiring actor, I don't want to be in an environment like this where it's possible that most of the studios that made all the films I grew up watching is gonna go bankrupt or go out of business. So what kind of entertainment industry would I be walking into? Would it be safe? Would it be profitable? And as far as McCarthyism goes, I'm not saying that it doesn't exist to this day, because maybe it does, just in a different form. The same way slavery exists to this day, but it's just in a different form. But I would hope that there would be something to protect me from that, like the Paramount Accords. And those accords still do exist today, but I feel like nobody's doing anything about it. Nobody's advocating for it, and that's what that user was basically saying. So to end this, guys, because I know I've been ranting for a long time, and I'm sorry, I apologize, but if you've gotten to the end of this episode, you know that most of the things that I wanted to discuss, I tried to hit as best as I could. I know that some of the topics I mentioned could be episodes in themselves, and they might be. Who knows? I might surprise you guys. But for now, I just wanted to get that in your head. I just wanted to put that down on paper so that we can come back to it later. So that you could finish this podcast thinking to yourself, wow, some of the things that he talked about, I might want to look into that. It made me think. I'm glad he said that. He did a lot of talking, but I'm glad he said it. And I just want to make you guys aware. I hope that I did what I hoped I'd do, which is educate you if you didn't know about this already. And yeah, I hope you enjoy the rest of your day, evening, or morning, whatever you're doing listening to this. Know that I appreciate you taking the time to listen to me, because I know that I ramble. I hope to see you next time. Bye. I just wanted to personally take this time to say thank you for listening to another episode of my podcast. I hope you keep listening. And remember, you're listening to Speech Therapy on Podcast Radio.